they were building with their dad. Mr. I'm 16 years old and I'm currently building a tiny home with my dad as well. So are they a real solution? And are tiny homes a real home? Rochelle Hunt and Daniel Wiles with you, joining you from our Gold Coast studios this hour is Research Fellow Heather Shearer. She's from the Cities Research Institute at Griffith University. Going to get to your calls as well. Our number's 1300 222 774.
There's no doubt Donald Trump divides opinion.
I am your warrior. He represents a dark force. I am your justice.
He talks directly with the American people, which is fantastic.
I am your retribution.
In a Four Corners special series, those on the inside speak out.
If he's returned to the presidency, he's going to be dangerous.
Join me, Mark Willesee, on Four Corners Retribution. Starts Monday night, July 15 on ABC TV and ABC iView.
On the ABC Listen app, your smart speaker, and on AM radio.
This is The Conversation on ABC Radio Melbourne and Victoria.
Good morning, Rochelle Hunt, Dan Miles and Heather Shearer with you as we look at tiny homes. Would you are you seriously consider Heather, before we have a chat to someone who's actually just been evicted from their tiny home, lots of people are talking about storage, so I just want to address the storage in the room. Do you have a flushing working toilet when you live in a tiny home?
A lot of people have various types of composting or incineration toilets, and some of the incineration toilets are quite expensive and fantastic to take to the fathers with the environment. And typically don't put it anywhere. But I would have one of those rather than I prefer the toilet to get in a tiny house.
Are you in a tiny home? Heather?
I live in a small house, but it's not a tiny home.
Tiny-ish.
I'd like to even live it outside.
Tony and Jason, well there you go, thanks Rich. We've knocked the food conversation on the head so far. Tick that box. You mentioned someone who's been evicted from the outside, and that's Nick, who's given us a call. Nick, hello, tell us your experience.
Oh, yeah. I'm still like 4:55 where I was moving to the story with all the train. With the car, so it's pretty major. We had a really wonderful so I'm 2022, I had my full bedroom, bathroom, combination. And then
sorry, there are an issue with building permits to tiny homes. Are people just knocking their heads against walls at the moment?
Yes. It's very sad that because it's just such a, I suppose, I don't know how one could say, red tape, bureaucracy around dwellings like tiny houses. And even though, as Nick was saying, it's in a very high bushfire area, and being on wheels would be quite useful. It's just that I really do think that government, no matter what level, it's local and state, need to pretty much say, well, we've got a terrible housing crisis. We have a nicely well-built dwelling, and maybe it doesn't tick a box in a specific, but can't we just make another category for it?
Yeah, just change. Yeah, if you're creating the laws, get a new box. Yeah.
And then we'll tick that one. Nana Anna has given us a call from the Mornington Peninsula. Thanks for holding, Nana, and good morning. What would you like to say?
Oh, good morning. Yes, my beautiful brother-in-law, him and his mate built me a tiny home about 3 years ago. I only had to pay for the material costs, and labour was free. Said I could babysit until the day I died. And I live in this wonderful tiny home now, and I couldn't be happier. I've heard up home. I can't imagine moving anything bigger.
Can you give us a visual description? Are you sitting in your tiny home right now?
I'm not actually now, but it's originally, the original frame is just an old caravan, and cut to one side of the caravan now, and built an annex onto it. I've got a complete separate bedroom upstairs, complete fully equipped kitchen, a lounge room with a dining room table and a separate bathroom with a full
That's not what you expect in a tiny home. Stu has given us a call from home. Yeah, Stu. Sorry, what would you like to say?
Look, I love the idea of the tiny home. I'm not sure that I'm ready to live in them myself, but the problem I see at the moment is, as you told before, red tape and bureaucracy. You've got to have land to put it on, and I think the local councils and the state governments need to work together to loosen some of the regulations on, for example, farming zone land. Personally, I see it as a long-term solution. We have a property in the Otways, 110 acres. The local village has always got problems getting accommodation for workers. And I think that sort of accommodation would really solve those issues in a lot of those communities.
Yeah, really good to hear from you, Stu. Let's go to Shannon Schultz, who's from Fred's Tiny Homes. She also runs a podcast called Candid Tiny Home, and has released an episode all about advocacy as well. Shannon, the role of councils, the role of red tape, we saw changes statewide in terms of where you can and what size you can place a small home onto your home dwelling. Is it getting easier, or is it still just too tricky for people to be able to do it?
Yeah, I think that it's good to make a distinction between what that state government, the housing statement said, which was about these are buildings that are conventional buildings, and they fall under the Building Act. But when you're talking about tiny homes on wheels, they do fall under the Vehicle Safety Act, which is a federal government document. So that's why the whole state is trouble when we're trying to say, here's my tiny house on wheels, let's get a building permit for it. It's more likely that it's a vehicle. And so it's really good to make that a successful vehicle and to make that on a really great trailer that meets the federal regulations around safety for trailers, and then to meet, a caravan standard for what's considered the state's a viable caravan.
even just hearing that change from slow, it feels like there are so many hurdles to jump and so much red tape to cut through. Throughout this conversation, I've just been trying to imagine what a tiny house town would look like. Yeah, like a village. Do you think we'll ever get to a point where you'll be able to drive down the street and you'll see tiny blocks for sale, for tiny homes or for renting, so that people can move their tiny home onto it for 90 days and then move on? Will this ever be the reality of the main street in the suburb?
I would love that to be the case, but I think that it does take probably federal and state collaboration there to get over the mark.
Do you think they care enough to do that place? Is there enough interest from the states and the feds?
Well, like I was talking to Councillor Ventura, who was the mayor of Ventura Shire, where this is happening. And she was reflecting that when they changed the local laws in Ventura Shire to remove any permit for living in a tiny house, and there's no time limit, so they really opened up something that housing crisis. And now we're reflecting, do you know what? There shouldn't be any local councils who don't understand the housing crisis. And so long as the people think at a local level and then further up as the state and at the federal level, the reality of how tiny houses will fill a gap and how there is an appetite for them. And that if you change it so that you could have a village, that would be so fantastic. There's always been an appetite for it. People have always been.
I don't know about that though, Shannon. The last time I did a show on whether or not we should be creating tiny home villages, I went into it thinking this is a great idea. People are going to love this. It literally was a few years ago that people's parents made a change as the housing crisis was worsening. And the pushback was astronomical. People saying you're just going to create trailer parks, trash.
And we've had that exactly texted in those words. Anna says sounds like a trailer park, and Robin says this sounds like gypsies. So how do we get over that?
Well, in terms of the first time that we tried to change the local rules in our shire, that was exactly the there was a headline house being bought in the whole thing, and basically because there's no legal definition or distinction between tiny house and caravan, you can't put caravans on people's properties because it would be trashy. It was just a flat no. So what I've seen is time and time again is that people who are attracted to tiny homes are highly conscientious community members care about the planet, everything required, like political interest in it, tends to streamline it into a very conscientious set of people. So it's nice to open up the idea and let someone think about how one tiny house on private property would be trashy. Totally not necessarily fascinating.
Shannon Schultz, good to speak with you. Thank you. Co-director of Red's Tiny Homes. Let's go back to you, Heather Shearer, research fellow at the Sydney Research Institute at Griffith University. Tiny home villages, will we ever see the day?
You can already put the tiny house in front of caravan parks, but I actually like to put tiny houses or housing houses in but in just about every suburb, because there's lots of tiny houses in rural residential areas around town. There's not that many in, say, the middle ring suburbs, and there's a lot of demand, and there's plenty of space in backyards, particularly there's plenty of spaces for tiny houses.
And they're tiny, they don't need much space. That's the whole point of it. If we're looking for space, it only needs to be tiny. So many great photos coming in on the text line, and we are being flooded with your messages. We heard earlier from Rio Davis. They built a tiny home. Dad, Mia has given us a call in Yay. Are you doing the same thing, Mia?
Yeah, I'm building a tiny house with my dad as well. And he's a carpenter, so it's really cool because we get lots of like leftover materials. So when you can look at recycled materials, try and make sure it's as environmentally friendly as possible.
And so, Mia, what's the idea for the use for this? Is this something for you to have at your parents' house in your teen years, or are you seeing this as the home you want to live into as you get older? What's its purpose?
Well, it's in our backyard at the moment, but we kind of been as a project, but eventually we'll do like a hangout space can, but potentially I might take with me when I move out of home. So.
And how's it going with your dad when the tool you get in there on the tools? You
Does it get
getting
heated?
along?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thanks for giving us a call. I love the idea of daddy-daughter time being with hammers and nails and bandsaws and drop saws and everything.
I could not imagine anything else. I tried to get a basketball ring up for me when I was 15 and it ended with my mum having a trip to hospital. So.
Well, I mean, let's not put that on here. Let's keep a little eye on that. Paul Kenner is the Australian Tiny House Association Victorian State Leader. One thing that we need to talk about are some of these messages that are coming through. The idea of tiny house villages is really taking on as soon as we start. And people are talking about the difference between making a complex series of units and a trailer park. With that idea in mind, Heather, how do we make this, is there a middle ground that we can find here between the idea of compact trailer parks and apartments or I guess...
Well, it's interesting though, right? Because people also have, the fact is that people do live in caravan parks and they live in caravan parks with dignity and they live there sometimes because they choose to, sometimes because they want. So when people make that argument, oh well, it just become a caravan park, it actually gets me a little bit angry, Heather, because people do live in caravan parks and more now than ever before. So making that comparison as a negative one, it's really fraught, isn't it?
It's also not an Australian thing. The whole concept of like trailer park is a United States thing, and there's long history behind why that is so. But lots and lots of people, and Western Australia and New South Wales, for example, there's manufacturing parties and home communities that provide the caravan park, many of the Western states as well, but particularly Western Australia and New South Wales. And they're all over the place, and plenty of people live in them, plenty of people live in their caravans too, so it's definitely what you do.
Absolutely. Let's end quickly with Sandy, who's in Sale. Good morning, Sandy.
Good morning. Yes, so to the house and so we started to build a tiny house. It had 3 rooms, now are 3 jobs. Went from there, had 2 rooms, was a bathroom, 1 bedroom, had a ramping pool. And on the kitchen there is my
And it works for you. Sandy, thank you. And we have to, as always, apologise to all of the texts that we didn't get a chance to read out and to all of the calls that we didn't get to. Just finally, Heather, as we're just about to hit the news, do you think that the popularity will increase and as a result will the red tape decrease?
I do, and I hope that's what it does. And also, it's the red tape decrease. So if it's approved in whatever way, then it'll be more cost benefit.
Yeah, and it's definitely, when you speak about security, and will we ever see people being able to borrow money for a tiny home? If they're taken as a serious solution, then should the banks not be taking it seriously as well?
I'm not sure, because the whole concept of value is actually in the man. So, and I'm not a finance expert, but I just definitely want to say, first of all, one thing is a real home. And we mentioned the Australian Tiny House Association.
Heather, thanks so much for your time and your insights. Heather Shearer is a research fellow at Cities Research Institute at Griffith University. We started the program, Daniel Miles, by asking tiny homes are starting to be seen as a real solution. Are they a real home? And from the callers that we've got today and the passion that has come through, I'm going to go with yes, they are a real home.
It's a lifestyle choice.
Chapel, welcome back.
Right.
Live in a tiny home?
Yeah, but I always worry there'll be a big shed. Put up stuff in.
Stuff.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today?
If you had the choice of a GP, should you be able to audition, and what do you need to know about choosing the right GP for you? We want to talk about that. But one of the things is, though, it's being able to find a GP in general, let alone being able to choose one. So if you had that choice, what do you do?
So have a wonderful program, Daniel Miles, as always. Thank you. I'll speak to you all next week. Don't forget, the Conversation Hour is a podcast, so if you want to listen back to today's show, or you want to share it, or Conversation Hour into your search engine, or go to the ABC's.
Wimbledon 2024 on ABC Sport. Hear it live every night from 10. Just search for tennis on the ABC Listener.
ABC News, good afternoon, I'm Michael. Premier says the airport rail link will be delayed 4 years because of Melbourne Airport's failure to cooperate until now. Premier Jacinta Allen has welcomed the announcement today from Melbourne Airport, which said it doesn't want to waste more time with the business case to show why an underground station better than the government's preferred above ground option. Premier Jacinta Allen says it's good they can now get on with it, but the airport's demands until now mean the project, which they'd hoped to have completed by 2029, won't happen.
A consequence of the unreasonable position that has been taken for a number of years is that this project has been delayed by 4 years. That's the simple fact and consequence of what we have been trying for years to negotiate with the airport.
Many people have taken to the streets in France after parliamentary elections defied the pollsters with no party an outright majority, 78 young voters.
Despite taking the poll by storm in the first round of the parliamentary elections, the far-right national rally was pushed into third place in Sunday's second round, thanks to major tactical maneuvers by the left and centre parties. Projections indicate that a left-wing coalition, the New Popular Front, appears on course to take the most seats, the region adding the result. It's an indescribable relief.
It's a big surprise and very weak.
Large crowds have been celebrating the results across Paris, and while police say the gatherings have been largely peaceful, there have been acts of violence, with riot police needing to use tear gas.
US President Joe Biden has urged his supporters to stay unified as members of the party are debating the future of his candidacy. The 81-year-old's poor performance in last week's election debate against Republican Donald Trump has raised questions about his physical and mental capacity to run for another term in the White House. On Sunday, Mr. Biden attended 2 campaign events in Pennsylvania, one of the few US states that can swing Democratic or Republican. At a black church service there, he's told the crowd that he has the experience needed to run the country.
No, I'm only like I'm 40 years old, but I'm around. This is how we're talking about that. Spectrum. Well, all kidding aside, I've been doing this a long time. And honest to God, I've never been more optimistic about America's future if we stick together.
Police are waiting to interview a father about a fatal house fire in Sydney in which 3 of his children died. Murray Olds reports.
Police say the 28-year-old remains at hospital and is photographed in the guard after yesterday military reaching the guard today, weekdays 3 and 6, and the 28-year-old mother and 4 of the children survived all hospitals. It is alleged that she must have stopped trying to save those trapped inside the house. So while Premier Crispin says the witnesses suffer stop.
These children are loved. Opposition leader Peter Dutton will speak at the Australian American Commission on the US. The cost of the floods will be covered by the Liberal Party. This year's forum will have a focus on national security, investment and cooperation with the Willis Defence Pact. Assisting Defence Minister Matt Misselthwaite will represent the government. Now to sport, Olympic long distance swimmer Ed Sloman says he will swim in the River Seine in Paris this month. Authorities say it's safe to do so. Sloman has told ABC Radio Sydney. We'll know more later today.
We've got a meeting with my federation staff there to discuss ways we can deal with situations that we've been over recent weeks. I know that this will be stuff like that, but what I have to say publicly is that put forward
Now to the weather for the state. Scattered showers and areas of rain increase from the west throughout the day. Cloudy, mostly dry in the southeast. Turn for mild day. Apart from in the west, slightly below average. For Melbourne, cloudy, high chance of rain this evening. Top of 16 is on the way. Tomorrow, very high chance of rain. 14. Expected Wednesday, a possible shower. 16. Thursday, showers, 13. Friday, shower 2. It's 16 degrees now. This is ABC.
Hello and welcome to the world today. I'm Sally Sarah coming to you from Gangland in Sydney. This Monday, 3 children killed in a Sydney house fire. Do our firefighters receive enough support? And festival goers scramble to escape a deluge.
Showed a predicted far-right win had failed. A left-wing coalition is set to secure the most parliamentary seats, followed by President Emmanuel Macron's central alliance in second. The far-right came in third. Left-wing supporters like municipal worker Vincent are relieved.
For weeks, the media and polls have been telling us that the National Rally would win a majority, would be in the lead, and the country has shown that no.
President Emmanuel Macron led the snap poll after votes for the far-right surged during recent elections for the European Parliament. The far-right National Rally was success to win the most seats, being the first round voted last week. But victims of turnaround put a dash after its rivals on the left and in the centre banded together, strategically withdrawing some candidates to ensure head-to-head battle rather than multi-candidate races that considered close. Although falling short of expectations, the far-right National Rally, led by Marine Le Pen, has still drastically increased the number of seats it holds.
Tomorrow we will be in a position to have an absolute majority, maybe in India, because in reality the shield against us, as was predicted, has occurred. France is going to be totally deadlocked with 3 groups of roughly equal size in the National Assembly. It's unfortunate we will lose another year of illegal immigration, another year of purchasing power lost, another year of insecurity exploding in our country. French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal has already pledged to resign after his centrist party failed to win a majority. The far left is demanding the next Prime Minister come prove its rights instead. Nicholas Tinzer is a senior fellow at the Centre for European Policy Analysis. He argues France still faces an uncertain future.
The majority in the House basically means that the left parties and the centrist parties from Macron's side will have to be in the kind of approach. So basically they will have to compromise. This is which is probably not the situation, but basically that's the only way out.
He believes the strategies used by the left and centrist groups to defeat the far right are to be acted.
People from the right or centrist parties say, okay, just to prevent the far right to come to power, we will vote for the left. And also some people from the left was carrying out responsibility in the sense of not taking us. Just to bring that to this.
The far right's being pushed back for now, with the implications of the European Union's second largest economy electing our own parliament will be felt right across the continent.
Firefighters are receiving support after attending a horrific house fire in Western Sydney on the weekend, which claimed the lives of 3 children. Police allege the father of the children tried to stop first responders from entering the house to rescue the victims. New South Wales Premier Chris Minns has described the alleged domestic violence-related homicide as horrific and senseless.
These children are loving safety and security and development. And imagine the New South Wales System of sorrow and deep sympathy with the surviving family members this morning. We also show enormous care and gratitude to our emergency service workers in New South Wales that were confronted with a devastating scene.
Leighton Brewery is State Secretary of the New South Wales Fire Brigade.
Did fantastically well to support out 2 people. The house was fully involved when they got there, which means they should have gone defensive and they went internal and did what they could. Unfortunately, it was already too late.
So when you say they should have gone defensive under their training practices, they shouldn't have gone in, but they wanted to go in anyway?
Absolutely. Fully involved crowd, the chance of life could be there extremely low. The risk is obviously very high for firefighters in the first. Speaking to some of the crews that attended those incidents and other incidents where they're going to, firefighters put their bodies on the line and try to do what they need to do.
How much has the culture of the job changed lately since you've been at 25 years ago? Fires talking more about this stuff than they used to when you first began?
Certainly, firefighters always talk to each other about this. It's the firefighters and anything else at all. The largest injury that firefighters can suffer, 40% of our work is smoke fires. Self-culture. So it's not just going to house fires, it's car accidents, suicides, all the other things that firefighters have dealt with.
What are the ups and downs for firefighters, because many of the calls that you get, it's a false alarm, everything's okay, you just never know which one is going to be the one. How do the firefighters deal with that possibility that this could be nothing or this could be something very significant?
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting mindset to always be, be the cause that, it does need to understand firefighters that you create a problem and try to fix it. I work for firefighters too across the state, 365, 24/7.
In the office this morning, about often there's focus on paramedics and police and on bush firefighters, but sometimes we don't focus on the people that do your kind of firefighting.
Or industrial rescue. Forestry in New South Wales is the largest rescue provider in New South Wales, the general line rescue, and a lot of that trauma comes from those incidents. Some of the things that we do, we turn up, generally not the ones that we've got to be fanfare about it, but
South Wales was torn apart by the murder of their 10-year-old daughter. Bridget Porter was killed by someone she knew. The perpetrator was found guilty of murder but not criminally responsible on mental health grounds in 2021. Now, the girl's parents are demanding major reforms to provide more support for victims of crime. And a warning, this story contains some confronting details. Joanna Woodburn reports.
10-year-old Bridget Porter, known as Biddy to her family, had regularly visited rural New South Wales during school holidays, but during what was to be her last trip in 2020, her mother Rebecca received unfathomable news. She was on my way to Rose Huntington's post office, and I received the news of my ex-husband saying that she was dead, and I just couldn't believe that Bridget's mother, Dawn, says he died his worst nightmare.
It was Christmas. A wedding with my birthday, anniversary of murder, birthday, Father's Day.
Rebecca and Brad plunged into depression and now suffer PTSD. They were entitled to a limited amount of counselling and $7,500 in grieving support. The girl's killer has a suite of mental health and financial support available. It just felt like, well, the killer was getting the best and has been offered the best in mental health support and training teams as a victim to have so little access and to try and fight so hard and then have to find your own mental health support felt like it's in May last year, Rebecca and Dawn heard their daughter's killer has been granted escorted day release from the forensic health facility where she's being treated. I thought, wait a minute, not only has this happened, my daughter's name's also been suppressed. I can't speak about it publicly, so it's just like a bolt of lightning hit me. The news galvanised the pair to investigate how to get greater justice for their daughter. At the forefront of their campaign is legislative change. Under New South Wales law, the name of a child victim of crime is suppressed and can only be used with the approval of senior next of kin. They've granted the ABC this permission. I think it's really disrespectful to suppress any victims of serious crimes. Every victim deserves the right to have their story told, to have a voice. It makes them invisible and insignificant, and I think we need to find a balance between protecting people who are mentally unwell, juveniles, and also giving victims the right to still have a voice and significance of what's happened to them to the whole. They've also been denied access to a key document in the prosecution's case against Biddy's killer.
It feels like there's something behind there. The police would like having cases staying outside the courtroom. We need to ask this, and they just refuse to provide it.
In a statement, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions said the brief of evidence contained highly distressing and extremely sensitive evidence and that it was not in the public interest to release the brief. The Porters are now calling for state parliamentary inquiries into the DPP and mental health review tribunal to decide if and when Biddy's killer is released. They say reforms to victim support are also needed.
So it's all about victims rather than perpetrator. I acknowledge that it's mental health issues for the perpetrator, but there needs to be more support for the victim.
Their local independent state MP and former police prosecutor Bill Donato has sponsored a petition to try to get the inquiries established.
The way we failed by the system, we can't let this occur, we can't let other families go through the same process. That's what we call out.
I feel very proud that we're finally having a voice and fighting for justice for Bridget. That gets me out of bed, I guess, and gives me some energy some days, but that's all I'm really proud of.
Mother Rebecca Porter, ending that report by Joanna Woodburn. A long-promised rail link to Melbourne Airport could become a reality by the end of the decade after a major standoff has resolved between the airport owner and the Victorian government. Melbourne Airport has agreed to a compromise which will see the terminal station built above ground rather than underground. And while the project is expected to ease the city's growing congestion problems, some are sceptical that it will be built by 2030. Gavin Coot reports.
A rail link to Melbourne Airport has been debated for 6 decades, but any hopes of getting it built this decade have all but evaporated until now. Laurie Argus is the CEO of Melbourne Airport.
We all know that Victorians have had enough talk by now, and we need to deliver a rail, which is what today is about.
The Airport Corporation has ditched its ongoing push for an underground rail station at the airport terminal, handing a long saying any train is better than no train.
By 2030, we're going to have 45 million passengers passing through the door, compared to 30 million today. And our view is we need all the transport solutions, including rail and and we think that that's the priority, so we've made the compromise.
Melbourne's airport is 22 kilometres from the CBD, and yet the vast majority of people use private vehicles to get to the airport. The remaining roughly 15% of travellers use bus services. Increasing congestion volumes, local leaders were ecstatic with Marley is that on track.
It is about bloody time. It's Christmas in July here in Airport West. We're so excited and so happy.
Piers Tyson is the mayor of Moonee Valley City in Melbourne's northwest. He points out the railway will have citywide benefits.
I think this is an absolute game changer for our community. So not just a link to the airport, but it's also as one of the highest proportion of airport workers in the state, in our community, it'll mean getting to work. Not to mention everyone, young and old, getting to the city.
The federal government last year appointed an independent mediator, Legal Scales, to try to get the stalled project moving. Last time we released a report that marked the case for an underground station. And while the long run impasse may now be resolved, Victoria's Premier Jacinta Allen is continuing to blame the airport for delays.
Today's announcement, today's information from the airport that they've acknowledged their unreasonable demands don't stack up are welcome, but they don't change the fact that we've lost 4 years whilst they have pursued that unreasonable claim.
The Premier argues it's unlikely the project will be delivered on time. They still say it's $10 billion price tag. While she says that'll be up to the federal government to work with.
The federal and state governments have committed $1 billion to this project. With delay does come cost, and so this will be something that the Commonwealth Government will work through with its project partners.
Some in Melbourne are tempering their expectations about exactly when they'll finally get a rail link. Daniel Bowen is from the Public Transport Users Association.
It's been a bit of a roller coaster of a project. Just when you think it's going to be delivered, something else happens and causes a delay. So I think the regional Melbourne, they won't believe we've got an airport rail link until it's actually open and the train is running.
The Transport Workers Union says today's agreement is positive news for 18,000 aviation workers, aviation businesses, and the community.
The rising cost of living is among the factors they're blamed for increasing rates of parents emotionally abusing their children. Figures show that 1 in 3 young people has been subjected to emotional abuse from parents. And for some victims, the damage can be so serious it can trigger mental health issues later in life. Alison Ramsey has asked parents as part of an ABC investigation from mental health crisis, and a warning some content may be distressing.
Artist Jed James was 8. His father killed his mother in a drug-fueled argument. His dad would later take his own life.
As a child, you feel a profound sense of loneliness.
But there was little to heal the emotional wounds, and he lashed out and used drugs as a 10.
It was sort of in a spiral mess, and that's where art sort of became my thing. It became my way of channeling all that grief and all that trauma.
Exposure to family violence is one type of emotional abuse. It can also include parental insults, humiliation, rejection, and withholding affection. Dr. Dibna Haslan from Queensland University of Technology co-authored the landmark Australian Child Maltreatment Study, which measures rates of parental emotional abuse across the generations around the country. In fact, this kind of parental abuse is on the rise, with nearly 35% of Australians aged 16 to 24 saying they experienced it as a child.
About 1 in 10 Australians report that their parents said to them that they didn't love them, hated them, or wished they were dead. These are quite serious interactions between parents and children.
The study is supported by figures obtained by the ABC, which shows state-based child protection agencies are also grappling with a steep rise in emotional abuse. The agencies received between 3,000 and 35,000 reports raising concerns of emotional abuse last financial year. Dr. Haslan says research has emotional abuse is more closely linked to suicide, self-harm, and drug or alcohol use. It declines as opposed to neglect. With these issues often first emerging in adolescence.
So we need to be getting that message out there to parents that the way that you interact with your children, not okay to call children names even in jest, and how you respond to children with that is critical in terms of their mental health.
Child protection agencies from the ABC across the community contributing to the increase in reports. Dr. Haslam says many figures are likely to be particularly
Emotional abuse does not go enough. It occurs when parents are stressed, when there are other substance issues going on, when there's other high stress financial pressure going on.
Advocates say parenting programs help, but there's always none available to parents across the country and online.
It's a bit of a postcode lottery as to what's available to you.
Children's Commissioner Anne Holland says offering help parents can trust is key.
Some parents say to me if they worry that if they ask for help, their children will be removed. These are realities that we need to be considering when we look at what is the scaffolding that provides for parents.
National Children's Commissioner Anne Holland. And if any of our stories have raised concerns for you or anyone you know, it's the music festival that turns one of Queensland's most isolated towns into a city for 3 days. The big Red Bash attendees almost found themselves stuck in Birdsville for much longer than expected. Up to 50 millimetres of rain fell across the region over the weekend, breaking some dry records, and sending some festival goers scrambling to leave the town. Declan Beach reports.
This year's Big Red Bash was bookended by rain, but if outback festival goers thought it was a bit muddy at the start of the festival.
Well, it's an interesting day where the solution though was how to get water away from our tanks. The rain's quite heavy.
They'd be relieved to have missed what Mother Nature eventually had in store. Up to 50 millimetres of rain was dumped on parts of far western Queensland over the weekend, across an area including Birdsville, where the festival was held. Senior Constable Stefan Purcell is the officer in charge of the Birdsville Police Station and says most of the thousands of festival goers got out of town just in time.
Most of the Big Red Bash people fly away early on Friday, so they're pretty much into the time without coming to the caravans on Friday night, so everyone got away from Birdsville pretty good off the roads.
The 3-day event wrapped up at the end of last week, reducing the town's population to just over 100. Stefan Purcell says rain has forced the closure of most of the roads in and out of the town, which were all unsealed.
Got a few people out of camping boxes yesterday, but called them from the rain. But as far as I've heard, the road closed, which is good, and traffic around, that's been pretty good.
Phelan Tannehy, the senior forecaster of the Weather Bureau, says it was a significant downpour.
We've seen falls of anywhere from between 20 and 50 mil of parts of southwest over this weekend. 20 to 50 mil is anywhere from 5 to probably 10 times from either July average, so that's the significant amount of rainfall as well.
He says Birdsville itself reported 16.4 millimetres, setting at least 25-year dry record.
The previous record for July for this site was 15.8, and that was set last year again during the years after. Well, for 2 years in a row that we had a rain event during the year like that.
The Big Red Bash may have been the biggest of at least by the rain, but it wasn't the only one. Saturday's camel races at the Dewey went ahead with some modifications. Race Club President Rob Dare says conditions were slippery even after organisers applied stabiliser to the track surface.
Yeah, no, they pulled it off, it was unreal. They had to plough the track up with a stabiliser to even the dirt out to make it safe for the camels. And there was one bit of a green you came from the outside running rail, and we thought it was just too big. So camel leaders tried to race them with no riders on. Camels didn't know what they were doing, and a lot of people noticed.
Senior Constable Stefan Purcell says once the roads reopen, there'll be another big flight to visit.
Greenery and wildlife is just going to continue, so just encourage people to start planning some trips out here. So in between events, the bash and the rush, we've got people who are hungry out here.
Big part of the world that's our Birdsville police officer Stefan Purcell. Anyone who reports conflict moves and that's it from the World Tower. We'll be back the same time tomorrow. I'm Sally Farrington.
story, like someone who was actually there and heard emotion.
Every father in my life was when we do.
From the Paul Arthur shooting to the Boxing Day celebrity to the Beatles tour of Australia. Series from the creators of You Can't Ask That. Starts Tuesday, July 9 on ABC TV and streaming on ABC
Good afternoon, everyone. 29 minutes to 1 o'clock. Congratulations in Western for the win. Thank you also to Stephanie who filled in the program. Did a terrific job, so thank you very much. I want to ask you, how do you find a GP that suits you? Really, is it just one that's available? Because that might be the only choice that you have. But if you could choose a GP, if you could choose a GP, should you be able to audition a GP? And if you did, we also this cocaine is widespread in Melbourne, and it is. Where? 1300 222 774. Text me 774 There's already two guns. That's how they were having in traffic in Caroline.
Also, trains on the Delma and stopping at the station of the Reds are stopping at the station as construction of the new station continues. Shuttle bus services operating.
One versus one this afternoon where we take a hit on this day from one decade and put it up against the hits on this day from another decade. Today it's 1964 versus 1974. The hit on this day in 1964 around the world. So we're wanting to ask you whether or not you would choose that particular song or this one. Rock Me Baby was a hit at the beginning of had a huge international hit from number 1 on this day in America, number 1 on this day in Canada, number 2 in Australia. That was a beautiful hit.
says Karen. That's what you do. But how do you go about doing that? How do you know what's suitable for you as far as a GP is concerned? Or is it quite simply anyone who can find a your particular place to the same? So cocaine is widespread in Melbourne and in Victoria. It's very expensive, $600. No, sorry, $300 a gram. So if it's widespread in Melbourne, where do people use it? Because we'll find out about more about that a little bit later on the program. So we'll take a look next at that particular story. Strong opioids found in cocaine. So what we do about it, and along with that, where is it being used and how do you know how to treat it best?
This is ABC Radio with Trevor Chapman.
A synthetic opioid 100 times more potent than heroin has been found in cocaine, currently being sold in Melbourne, prompting a warning from Victoria's Health Department. On RAS program this morning, Dr. Paul McCarthy said that the drug naloxone that can reverse the opioid overdose should become widely available.
was when it was mixed in with cocaine. So that is obviously a first and an urgent and immediate issue. But the problem is that the very potent opioids get mixed in with a range of things. So you shouldn't really focus on cocaine so much. Because these drugs don't get mixed in with anything.
So why is it?
Okay, so this is probably an unusual scenario, but let's say that you were a drug dealer and you had, say, 1 gram as now, what happens when you actually destroy the protein of the drug, like I was saying, generally you only need 2 grams. So if you've got a gram of something, then you can replace half of it with a very small amount of that drug. So what used to be your 1 gram bag, you could now have so 2 grams. And so it actually makes people using the capacity to accentuate their proper line because they use half the drug that they would usually do in a bag.
Yeah, no, I understand the idea of playing that thing. Why would this particular drug?
It's really powerful. So you only need very, very small amounts. So you can supplement the original drug, like ketamine, like cocaine, like MDMA, put a very small amount of this in there. And what people don't really know about opiates is that the initial phase of someone taking a powerful opiate causes euphoria. It doesn't just immediately cause people to die or have respiratory depression. So that initial stage of euphoria is why people are interested in the drug. They're not so much interested in the because that's what people experience.
Now, bringing naloxone has been devastating if people do ID, as we heard within that statement from Dr. Carter, that it should be readily available. How do we know where to make that readily available?
Yeah, great question. We have an early warning system in Victoria. Not many people know the full extent of it because it's been operating since 2020. We have, in addition to testing the blood